Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Governor Kate Brown calling to order the August 11th, 2020 meeting of the Land Board. I'm present along with my Land Board Assistant, Jason Miner. Secretary Clarno.
Yes, I'm present, and along with my Chief of Staff, Cameron Smith, and my Deputy, Jeff Morgan.
Great. Treasurer Reed.
Good morning. I'm here with Ryan Mann, our Legislative Director and Land Board Assistant.
All right. Director Walker.
Thank you, Governor. Could I have staff of the Department of State Lands who are on the call please identify themselves?
Yeah, this is Bill Ryan, Deputy Director of Operations.
And Allie?
Allie Ryan Hansen, DSL Communications Manager.
Great. And then I believe our esteemed counsel, Matt DeVore, is on the line. Can you say hello?
Good morning, Governor and Director Walker. This is Matt DeVore.
All right, sounds great. And for those of you on the listening audience, you can go to our website and find the link to be watching on the YouTube channel. And I say watching because there is no video, though at some point today we will put a map up on the, or a link to a map up on the screen when we talk about agenda item 2. If members of the audience do have testimony they would like to make in response to any agenda item, please email the testimony to landboard.testimony@state.or.us, and my assistant Aaron Smith is in the room and will let me know if there is any testimony to be read. So with that, Governor, I will move into the agenda. I hope to have you all out of here within about 45 minutes at the most, because I know you all have busy schedules today. And it is a short agenda, but trust me, as we get into October and December, it will start to fill up. The first item on the agenda, Governor, is I'll turn it back over to you since you're running the meeting.
Is approval of the minutes from the last meeting, which was June 9th, 2020.
Great.
Madam Chair, I move approval of the minutes for June 9th, 2020. Bias.
Second the motion.
Great. The treasurer has moved approval of the minutes from the June 9th, 2020 Land Board meeting. The secretary has seconded. Hearing and seeing no objections, so ordered.
Thank you.
Item 2.
All right, item two is the agenda item that we will put a link to a map up on the screen, because this is going to be your history lesson for the day. The map will show how the Willamette River has changed from statehood to today, and it's just fascinating how much it has changed. So the issue at hand is whether the State Land Board should authorize the exchange of deeds and issuance of quitclaim deeds with VCRAF PGIM, that's not an acronym for anything, it's just the letters of the name, Raptor LLC, and hereinafter I'm going to call them Raptor, and adjacent landowners, to clear title of the former Willamette River Channel land and to establish state boundary ownership of the beds and banks of the river, the map to which I referred to in Exhibit A. Counsel for the applicant, Ms. Jenny Bricker, is here in the Land Board room. Should any Land Board member have any questions, I can call her up to the table. The authorities are set out below. This is just a fascinating agenda item because when the state was created in 1859, we were granted the bed and banks of all navigable rivers to protect the public uses of navigation, fisheries, and recreation on the state's rivers, and the Willamette is determined to be a navigable river. When a river channel moves gradually over time through natural accretion, the state's ownership generally moves with the shoreline, but leaves behind formerly submerged and submersible land with unclear title. And I'll have Deputy Ryan talk about that in a few minutes. The focus of this item relates to the Willamette River in Benton County at Township 13 South, Range 4 West, Sections 17, 18, and 19, and at Township 13 South, Range 5 West, Section 24. Raptor LLC approached the department requesting consideration to exchange formerly submerged and submersible land for what is today segments of the Willamette River. And Raptor owns some of the tack lots around the area in question. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Bill Ryan to explain this fascinating change in the river and what brings us here today.
Great. Thank you, Director Walker. Good morning, Governor Brown, Treasurer Reed, and Secretary Clarno. If you look at that map on Exhibit A, the base of that is an aerial photograph from 2018, and that's showing the current location of the Willamette River and the Albany Slough or the Albany Channel. It's named a couple different things as a tributary to the west of the main stem of the river. And so the green line that you see sort of making an S across that map is the location of the Willamette River at the time of statehood. So that was the location of the submerged and submersible lands that the state was granted at that time. But through natural river processes, the Willamette has moved. And so you can see quite a bit of movement relative to that green line. And so that process has been determined to be a natural accretion process as opposed to an ebullitive process. And then on a natural accretion process, the ownership of those submerged and submersible lands actually moves with the water line. In this area, most of the boundaries are the ordinary low water line. And so really what we're looking at here is just clarifying title. We're not actually giving away any land. We're really just making clear what the actual ownership is. The location of the waterway, the submerged and submersible lands in the photograph, the aerial photograph from today, is where the ownership actually is. And so the process that we're entering into now just clears title so that that ownership boundary is official, basically, or officially documented.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? Would you like to hear from Ms. Bricker? And let me ask Aaron if anyone has emailed in. Okay, we have no one offering testimony online.
Any questions from the board?
All right, well, I have the department recommends the State Land Board authorize an exchange of deeds and issuance of quitclaim deeds with VCRAF PGIM, Raptor LLC, and other adjacent landowners as applicable to consistently establish the state's ownership of land lying below the ordinary low water line in the main channel of the Willamette River and in the Albany Channel/Slough, and to remove the cloud of title for VCRAF PGIM, Raptor LLC, and adjacent landowners as to the formerly submerged and submersible lands from the former channel.
Is there a motion from one of the board members?
Madam Chair,
I would
Vice
move-
Chair, move approval of the staff recommendation. Sorry to step
All right.
on your words, Madam Secretary.
Yes, that's okay. I'll just
Sure.
second your motion. Very well done.
Great. Treasurer Reed moves approval of the staff recommendation. Secretary Clarno seconds the motion. Hearing and seeing no objection, it is so ordered.
Great,
I
thank
don't
you.
have a gavel, so you're just going to have to.
All right.
Director Walker, on to item number 3.
Awesome. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 3, and I'll need to read this carefully into the record to make sure we get the right things into the record in terms of where we are restricting state-owned property. So this subject matter is to request approval to permanently adopt Oregon Administrative Rule 141-088-0230, restrictions for the state-owned property of the Columbia River and Oregon Slough. This rule would enact public use restrictions on state-owned land along the Columbia River from river miles 102 to 106, which is Hayden Island to the north and Marine Drive to the south side, and river mile 120 to 121, the Sandy River Delta, and along the Oregon Slough from river miles 0 to 2.5, also known as the North Portland Harbor Channel. The authorities are set out below, and let me give you some background. Y'all have heard this before because we brought it in front of the land board, and it started back in 2018. We started getting complaints, numerous calls and complaints highlighting concerns regarding public use of the state lands along the Columbia River and the Oregon Slough in Portland. The department and the Port of Portland documented illegal or nuisance activity on state-owned land that we've outlined below in the written documents and we have previously discussed. The department received multiple requests to enact closures, and especially from Don Larson of the Waterfront Organizations of Oregon, and I actually joined Mr. Larson in his boat and toured the sites that he was concerned about, and it was eye-opening and eye-popping. In response to the complaints from the port and Mr. Larson, the department enacted temporary emergency restrictions along the Columbia River at the locations I cited at the outset. We enacted those restrictions on August 22, 2019. These restrictions closed state-owned beaches in these areas to all uses between 10 p.m. and 5 p.m., the establishment of any campsites, and fires. With the approval of the State Land Board in October of 2019, the department then initiated the permanent rulemaking process in February of 2020. There was extensive public involvement. A Rules Advisory Committee, otherwise known as a RAC, was convened remotely on May 13, 2020, because we have been under siege with a pandemic and we are doing everything remotely. The RAC was convened to review and make comments on the proposed rule change and the fiscal impact statement. Several individuals served on the RAC, as seen in the attached paperwork, which was really terrific participation. After the public notice, after the RAC meeting concluded, there was public notice when the proposed rulemaking was filed with the Secretary of State's office. The department sent a news release to interested parties and notice to interested parties, stakeholders, and local media outlets, and also notified appropriate legislators who are represent those particular areas. There was one public hearing on the proposed rules, also held remotely on June 17, 2020. 2 members participated of the public and no comments were provided on the proposed rule. There were 9 comments that were received, written comments, and those are in your packet as Appendix C, and nearly all of those supported the change. I think the only one who did not was someone who kayaks in the area and really likes to camp, but we just needed to control this area and the littering and the dumping and the fires and the degradation to the habitat. Therefore, the department recommends the land board move to adopt the proposed rule, OAR, Oregon Administrative Rule 141-088-0230, to prohibit the public recreational use of state-owned property between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m., the establishment of a campsite at any time, and fires at any time along areas of the Columbia River and the Oregon Slough. If adopted, the proposed rule will go into effect on September 21, 2020. That concludes my remarks, Governor.
Thank you. Questions for Director Walker from the Land Board? Not hearing any questions. Do I have a motion? And Secretary Connor, I'll come to you if you're willing.
Yes, I would move that we move a motion on the staff recommendation.
Great. Secretary Clarno moves that we accept the staff recommendation to permanently adopt OAR 141-088-0230, restrictions for the state-owned property on the Columbia River and Oregon Slough. Do I hear a second?
You hear a second. Treasurer Reed here.
Great. Second by the treasurer. Hearing and see of no objection, so ordered. Director Walker, on to informational items with number 4.
Thank you, Governor. Agenda item 4 is it concerns Department of Administrative Services and the Hillcrest mineral release in Marion County. The Department of Administrative Services owns 44.6 acres of subsurface mineral and geothermal rights in Marion County. At Township 8 South, Range 3 West, Section 12B, Tax Lot 1499, which is the former Hillcrest Youth Authority facility. The department being Department of Administrative Services, has been diligently marketing the property for several months and is actually close to reaching an agreement with a purchaser who is interested also in purchasing the mineral estate. ORS, Oregon Revised Statutes 273.780 sub 3 states that the mineral and geothermal resource rights shall be retained by the state in the absence of a finding by the state land board upon adequate facts presented to it that their sale or exchange is for purpose of obtaining the greatest benefit for the people of this state, consistent with the conservation of lands under its jurisdiction, under sound techniques of land management. This item has been brought to the board as an informational item. Dogami, Department of Geology and Mineral Industries, will prepare a mineral report. It has been ordered as required by the administrative rule. And upon completion of the Dogami report, the department will review it and submit a recommendation to the land board on whether or not to release the minerals. So you should see that report either in October or December, whenever Dogami completes its review. Any questions about that? And I'll move on to the final informational item.
Any questions from the land board? All right.
Okay, great. My only other item under informational items today is to bring your attention to some things that are going on at the South Slough Reserve that I think are just fabulous, and I wanted to share those. I learned about them at the South Slough Management Commission that we recently had, and I will also let you know that in October I plan to bring you a report concerning the South Slough management, as you had asked me to undertake that review when I was hired, and so I'll have a report about that in October. But for now, I wanted to alert you to a couple of things that I thought were pretty exciting. There is a Lamprey citizen science project. So the South Slough Reserve is currently leading a citizen science project focused on understanding population trends and distributions of 2 lamprey species in in watersheds along the southern Oregon coast. Why I found that exciting is because, as you are all aware, I'm certain, Native American tribes use the lamprey as a food source, and it's a cultural resource for them as well. So I'm very excited that we're doing something to learn more about the lamprey. Reserve staff are partnering with citizen science volunteers to collect water samples at over 70 locations along the coast. The water samples are then analyzed using environmental DNA methods to detect the presence of lamprey DNA. A major component of this project is to compare the effectiveness of these non-invasive environmental DNA methods with traditional electrofishing methods where they shock the lamprey. The project is funded through grants from the United States Department of Agriculture, United States Forest Service. And my question to the scientists involved in that was whether we would be able to tell how many lamprey are in each stream. And they do not have the capability to do that yet, because some lamprey give off more DNA than others, which I found fascinating. But I think when this project concludes, we're going to learn much more about lamprey than we knew before. The second project they're involved in is an economic contribution study. The reserve is working with a team of economists from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, known as NOAA, the Eastern Research Group, and the Pew Charitable Trust on a study to measure and communicate the economic contribution of the South Slough Reserve to the local economy and the state of Oregon. This study is also being conducted in one other reserve in the reserve system. The study is focused on two components. One, the actual spending by the reserve, its staff and its partners, and two, the economic contribution of visitors who come to the reserve. In addition, the project will examine the feasibility of different methods for measuring visitor use on public lands with remote public access points. This effort will complement important research being done by the National Estuarine Research Reserve System on the economic benefits of reserves, including the valuation of ecosystem services that reserves provide. This study is expected to be concluded this fall, and I'm sure that we're all anxious to hear how that turns out. The third item there is the Eelgrass Projects. There are two. The science team at the South Slough Reserve started a new experiment in July to investigate the effectiveness of transplanting eelgrass at different shoreline elevations. This project will help the reserve evaluate potential methods for restoring eelgrass to the South Slough following significant eelgrass declines in recent years. The project involved transplanting eelgrass shoots from Clam Island in the Coos Estuary to the South Slough at three elevations, mid, low, and subtidal edge. And it will be followed by monitoring the success of the eelgrass transplants at regular intervals. As you may know, eelgrass is important to the crab fishery as well as other elements of the estuarine system. So I'm hoping that we can find that this is successful. The other eelgrass restoration project is partnering with Friends of the South Slough and the Pacific Marine and Estuarine Fish Habitat Partnership, known as PMEP. They're partnering on a project funded by the Pew Charitable Trust to complete an eelgrass restoration synthesis for the west coast of the United States. The goals of this project are to develop a comprehensive document and online resources that detail the successes and failures of eelgrass restoration methods along the west coast, including an analysis of factors that affect eelgrass restoration success and the potential for eelgrass restoration products to consider carbon sequestration impacts. This project is expected to be completed in April of 2021. So again, These are exciting things being conducted, experiments being conducted by our scientists at the South Slough, in addition to the fine education programs that they are providing to the children in the area and also to communities through their outreach program. I will let you know, Governor, that they have been very good at observing the rules that you have established with your medical team about how to conduct classes. And so far, so good. We have no reports of anyone being sick with the virus, and it's going extremely well. And they also now have online classes that my own grandchildren have been watching. So I'm really pleased with the work of the staff at the South Slough and think they really do a great job contributing to the state of Oregon and the things that we care about. With that, Governor and members of the board, that concludes my discussion today. If you have any further questions or anything you'd like me to work on between now and October, I'm listening.
Thank you, Director Walker. That was extremely interesting and very informative. We really appreciate the update, and I'm really pleased to not all regions of the state have been able to keep their numbers down, but the South Coast has done a tremendous job. So it's great to hear. Secretary Clarno, anything from you or your team?
No, I appreciate the update from Vicki. Having been born on the Oregon coast, I'm always interested in how well we're doing down there, and a lot of progress is being made in those areas. And thank you, Vicki, for the update.
You're quite welcome.
Treasurer Reed?
Nothing for me. Thank you.
All right. Well, please continue to stay safe out there and be well. And Director Walker and your team, thank you for a concise and excellent and productive meeting. So have a good day, everyone. And with that, we are formally adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Boom!
Tobias Reed.